Imagine a camera that can do it all. It's big, it's MFT, it's got a long-lasting battery life. It produces a gorgeous image. It's got a big viewfinder on the back. Oh yeah, baby. Dual XLR input for that hella nice scratch audio. Can we just get some fools?
Buttons for days, and yet still simple to operate. Tally lights brighter than my future. And did I mention inbuilt NDs? This camera really can do everything. Well, almost everything. It's got one teensy tiny little drawback. It doesn't shoot 4K. I know. Well, let's talk about it. When I first saw this camera, a little less than half a year ago on the internet, I knew I had to have it. It was the beautiful, though not entirely logical, upgrade from my GX80. And so after sitting down, looking at my bank account and figuring out a plan of attack, I went looking. This is a Panasonic AF100, and it's a great camera. It's the camera I've been talking about for this whole episode. But what specifically makes it so great? Well, here it is. Look at the shiny body. Look how beautiful this looks. Isn't it gorgeous? Alright. There's more to it than just a cool looking body. It's somewhere in between a red and a camcorder. It looks like a big Arri Alexa, a red Epic, and your regular Sony camcorder all got together at a really nice threesome, and somehow a kit got made, and that was this camera. That could have happened if you ignore all the basic biological facts, but not really, because this camera came out in 2011, way before any of those cameras came out. This little dude, epic piece of digital cinema history, was on the scene before the Arri Alexa came out. Let that sink in for a minute. Alright, so we've sung its praises. Let's talk about how cool this thing is. We'll start from this side. Ooh, beautiful. Alright, so to start out, we have a fully articulating, fold out LCD screen. It's gorgeous. It's bright. It displays very well. It displays colors nice. It's just great. It's awesome. Moving down to the panel here, we have an array of buttons. Next to the power button, you'll find the mode button and a bunch of other stuff. ISO, white balance, your gain for your audio inputs, both of them, your iris settings, your manual focus, because that was a very early version of it on this camera. And then up here, you'll find your ND controls. Hear that sound? That's the sound of sensible design. Up here, we have our menu controls. A little joystick to control the menu, a start-stop button, and that's about it. Got a nice carry handle that's very sturdy and built into the design, and a very nice viewfinder. Alright, moving to the back. If we lift this up a little bit, we can see that we can open this up, and there's dual slots in there for recording, so you'll never lose another piece of footage. Close that back up. Moving on to the back, we see our battery, which is capable of lasting up to 2 hours on a single charge. It lasts really long for what it is. Over here we have all the ports, AV, in and out, HDMI, SDI. This camera is SDI capable, so that's great. And a bunch of other stuff. We have our slot select, which means that over here is where you select your frame rates and shutter speeds. This camera can go up to 120 frames a second in slow motion without a drop in resolution. Now, isn't that great? If you ask me, it is. Over on this side, we have a bunch of other cool stuff. Mainly the XLR inputs. 2, to be precise. And that's for good reason, because you are supposed to be able to plug in a boom operator and an on-camera mic. That would sit up here in the cold shoe mat. Over here we find another start-stop button, and over here we find another user button, which is just really nice because you can program it to whatever you want it to be. Over here we find the most comfortable hand grip you'll ever have. If we move to the front of the camera, you can really see its profile. Up here, you've got your tally lights, you've got your ND filters, your auto white balance, because it did have that function. It's not very good, but it does have it. And your micro four thirds sensor and lens mount. It's micro four thirds, meaning that not only are you close to a 35mm film look, because of the size of the sensor, you also can adapt almost every other lens in the world to this. This single camera is the reason that there are so many adapters available for micro four thirds. This was the first big MFT prosumer camera to come out ever, and thus it has been used on a ton of movie sets. And people have used it with a ton of different lenses. Some people made their own adapters, but then companies started to take notice, and along came everything we now know and love today. This camera, and it's hard to overstate how important this camera has been. This camera has single-handedly led the MFT revolution to the point where it is now. The fact that we have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, the great Panasonic GH5 and GH6 series, all the other awesome MFT mount cameras that are used in cinema today came from this little dude. Now, how cool is that? You see, for something so special and capable, it's very absent from the internet. You'd think its mere presence in the film industry at the time would have made waves so big that it caused a tsunami, but no. It never did. It's just not there. This camera went largely unnoticed by the general public. Its legacy is now only to be glimpsed at in the occasional article from that time, seen in the corner of blurry pictures from amateur student film sets on the way back machine. The occasional article talks about how great it is, but it's very hard to find an actually up-to-date, competent review on this camera. Was it just a machine that came out slightly before its time? Probably. Can we do something about that? Definitely. It deserves a second run. Most of the media about this machine is so well hidden, buried under mountains of bigger, cooler, higher resolution competition, that it's just very hard to find anything. And yet, I did. For months I was poring over every video, every grainy picture from every amateur movie set at the time, every article I read, every line of text I dissected. I came away with very little. A few images, a few lines of text that mostly said what I knew already. And I browsed second-hand markets. But because the camera wasn't popular at the time it came out, at least not here, it was very hard to find anything. Until the 9th of August. I had just woken up, and like so many of my generation, I checked my phone. I naturally went straight to Marktplaats, and there it was. I remember the joy of that moment. We live our generally mundane lives with very little in the way of actually special moments, but when we get one, it sure is memorable. And this, sure, was memorable. I jumped out of bed. I messaged the buyer, a kind older man, about the camera, and he reacted almost immediately. The sale was a go. But there was just one problem. He was on the other side of the country. Now, for us Dutchies, that's still only a 3-hour train ride away, but still, it was a sizable distance to go, and this threw a wrench in my plans.
Oh, hey kid, say, you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to the channel now, would you? It'd be swell. Help somebody out, you know? Say, you wouldn't have a light on you, would you? Might quit working. No? No light? Too bad. Well, make me feel a little better. Hit that subscribe button. Come on, I know you can do it. Gee, thanks. Alright. Are you from 95.9 now? See you around, kid.
Oh. I think that's my train. Yeah, that's it. Not really, though. I messaged my friend asking if he'd be along for the ride, and, like I suspected, he immediately said yes. The journey by train was fast, filled with excitement. I remember looking over every picture that I had on this camera and just obsessing over every minute detail. When, at long last, we finally arrived at the train station in Wolvega, not much more than a few bricks laid out in a field, we got off the train, and a brisk 20-minute walk later, we arrived at the old man's cottage. And it truly was a cottage. We knocked on the door, heard some dogs barking, and nervously waited outside. The door opened, and this friendly old man led us up the stairs to a studio. It turns out he was the sound mixer for the National Ballet. He'd gotten into film through his career in audio. Once we were upstairs, it was immediately clear to me how much he cared about this camera, and how much he wanted it to have a good second home. He was happy with me as well, because, in his own words, he was glad it was going to somebody who could really enjoy it. I couldn't believe it. I finally had my hands on my very own Panasonic AF100. So, my friends, that is the story of how I got my hands on my very own AF100. It's currently awaiting repairs, and I really hope I get to work more with it in my future. It is a fantastic little camera, and it has so much more to offer. It is not played out yet.
The next stop is Amsterdam station.
Well, I think that's my stop, so I gotta get off pretty soon. But just a few words of closing for you. If you're ever in the market for a new camera, if you ever find yourself needing a new machine, give this old girl a try. I promise that she's worth it.